nights are getting thicker. The candles have burned down, drowning to a flicker. The moon is smothered in a veil of dark cloud. In uptown we can hear the rioters scream out loud. Screams in the distance, echoes of unfamiliar voices, and you can feel the trouble itching up in the air. Screams in the distance, screams in the distance. Horses are wild and jumping and running in circles, raising up dust and dirt and kicking down fences. The clocks on the walls are ticking but running backwards. The art in the gallery is tattered, hanging from the frames. Screams in the distance, echoes of unfamiliar voices, and you can feel the trouble itching up in the air. Screams in the distance, screams in the distance. The wheels are spinning, the mud is getting deeper. The blaze of distant torches are getting nearer. As a curtain of night lifts and the dawn is breaking, it won't stop the looting and the screams in the distance, echoes of unfamiliar voices,
Welcome to PaganFM. We're coming to you from South Jersey, the home of the Jersey Devil, and just outside of Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. I'm Dee, your hostess, and that was Andrew Bako with Screams in the Distance. If you're new to the show, or even if you've been listening for a bit, you might want to know what this show is about. The obvious answer is that it's a pagan podcast. Of course it is. But it's more than that. I've got a friend in New Hampshire. Her name is Anna. If you're listening tonight, Anna, well, welcome. And Anna's a Christian. Anna's a really good friend, and I love her dearly. She's also been listening since I was on the air in WSCA in Portsmouth. Anna once commented that she liked listening to my homilies. So I think that's where I'll start my explanation. My show is a discussion on paganism from my point of view, but technically, I wouldn't say that I have homilies. I'd also say I don't have sermons. So we'll start. What is a sermon? A sermon, at least according to Wikipedia, is a religious discourse or an oration by a preacher addressing a scriptural, theological, or moral topic, usually expounding on a type of belief, law, or behavior within past or present topics. So, in paganism, we really don't have scripture. We sort of have a theology, and morality tends to be more of a human thing than a religious thing. We do have beliefs, but among pagans, our beliefs are quite diverse. And we have very few, if any, actual laws. As far as beliefs, they come down to pretty much don't hurt people. Sermons are pretty much left to organized religions such as Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and Buddhism. And I don't really see paganism as an organized religion, at least not yet. Homilies are similar to sermons, but tend to be shorter and related to a scriptural reading that is read as part of a service. And we don't really actually have scriptures in paganism, though we do have things that we might consider sacred texts, such as Doreen Valenti's Charge of the Goddess. There's really nothing resembling a Bible or any revealed text by some god to the masses. There is, Charles Godfrey Leland wrote or translated, not really sure where it came from, but there is Aradia, the Gospel of the Witches, which is kind of a text for Strega, and I might look at that in a couple of weeks. So, in some senses, that might be considered sort of a gospel. It's kind of handed down, if you believe the story, it's handed down literature from Italian witchcraft. I'm not really sure yet where I put it, but I still don't consider that we have sacred text in the same way as Christianity or Islam in that sense. Anyway, what I am doing in this show is I'm speaking from my own experience. I'm discussing things that I have learned that other people have spoken about from their own experience. We don't have anything that is on par with a Bible or with a Quran or anything like that. So the closest thing that I can say is that I am simply sharing my own understanding. I'm not a prophet. I've experienced some things. I don't claim initiation by any secret society of witches that's been hiding in the world since the Dark Ages. To the contrary, one of my ancestors was the foreman of the jury during the Salem witch trials. I suppose that in some sense, this is a form of pagan ministry, and that ministry was part of my life when I was living in New Hampshire. I had the opportunity to perform one of the first same-sex marriages in New Hampshire, and I did a number of marriages and hand fastings. A friend in New Hampshire whose wedding I had performed once called me and told me that he had pancreatic cancer. He asked if I would perform his celebration of life ceremony after he died. I asked if he would like me to come and sing to him when he was in hospice, and he asked me to come and sing him away, and so I did. And I was there for the week or so that he was in hospice, and I met his family, and I performed that celebration of life. That's what ministry is. So, what is this show? Is it homilies? Is it sermons? Technically, who knows? What it is simply my form of pagan ministry. It's me doing what I do. It's me sharing my life, my experience, and the bits and bobs that I have learned in the years since I've been walking this earth, since I've been walking this path. And we have a new artist this week. That is Andrew Bako, and you heard him opening the show with Screams in the Distance. We're going to hear a bit more from him after we take a look at the weather. So today has been a good day in South Jersey and the Philly area. It reached about 45 degrees, and tonight we'll have a low around 27. Tonight we'll see some light rain with a high... not tonight. Sunday we'll see light rain with a high of around 49, a low around 32 degrees. Monday it'll be mostly cloudy with a high of 43, a low around 30. And finally on Tuesday we'll reach 53 degrees with partly cloudy skies and a low of about 38. This makes me very excited because I will be able to get back on my bike again with the way South Jersey plowed the roads. It did not leave any shoulders available for riding, and the sidewalks haven't been plowed, and it has been impossible for me to make my commutes by bicycle. So I am really looking forward to the roads finally being clear and me being back on my bike once again. So let's hear some more music. We're going to hear Dreamcatcher by Andrew Bako, and we'll hear Silent No Longer by Featherscale. So we'll be back in a few minutes.
sand. In every hunter's eye, there is a reverence for the land, for every moonlit sky. In every artist's mind, in every mother's heart, there's an intrinsic understanding of the magic arts. Corridors of power, remnants of the mighty Rome. Forgotten are the ancient secrets, hidden in the sacred tome. In daily rituals, candle, cup, and robe, a winter solstice, when the sun is born to light the world. They hide our world. Pagan ways, surviving tales and ancient arts, hidden in the trappings that dare not wash away. Somehow still we recognize the symbols in our hearts. Dare to will to know it's always been our way. Silence me no longer. We cannot stay afraid. In every Easter egg, in every Christmas tree, billion Christians help preserve our ways for all to see. Through beaded doorways, they seek advice, never understanding how the cards depict the tree of life. All their lives. The pagan ways, surviving tales and ancient arts, hidden in the trappings that dare not wash away. Somehow still we recognize the symbols in our hearts. To dare to will to know it's always been our way. Silence me no longer. We cannot stay afraid. Skeptics' ivory tower, through scientific gains, still revolve through constellations, bearing old gods' names. To map our DNA, break that mighty code, prove by our reflection, as above then so below. As above then so below. The pagan ways surviving tales of ancient arts, hidden in the trappings that dare not wash away. Somehow still we recognize the symbols in our hearts. To dare, to will, to know, it's always been our way. But silence me no longer. We need not be afraid. Yeah, silence me no longer. We greet the coming age.
So that was Andrew Bako, or Drew Bako, with Dreamcatcher from the album by the same name. And Featherscale with Silent No Longer from the album Topaz Stars in a Violet Sky. So tonight, well, I've got a few things I want to talk about, but I've spent the past year or so taking public transportation or riding my bike to work. It's given me the opportunity to improve my health, and it gives me a chance to connect with nature. And as I'm writing this, well, it was currently Tuesday evening when I was writing this. Now it's Saturday. But I've been examining the past couple of days. Yesterday, or Monday night, or Monday, actually it was Monday morning, I got off the train near where I work, and I was walking along the road in Cherry Hill, and I spotted a bird sitting atop a street lamp. As I got closer, I thought it might be a crow. I like crows, but I've been looking for quite some time for a raven. And when I got on the other side of the streetlight and I got a better look, I saw its beak, and it looked like a raven. And then I heard it squawk twice before it flew off, and it was indeed a raven. And I was most happy. So Sunday night, actually it wasn't Sunday, it was Monday night, I was walking along the Black Horse Pike in Gloucester Township, and I saw a tiny mouse along the snow, and it ran down a storm drain as I came along. I didn't expect to see it there, and it was probably afraid of me, but I'm always amazed at the amount of wildlife that I can see in areas where I don't really expect it. Where I work, there are deer, geese, Canada geese, hawks, crows, rabbits, and many other creatures. And over the past few days, I've also spent a good amount of time watching the moon, looking up the Pleiades and other constellations and asterisms, and simply feeling my feet crunching on the snow and the cold, crisp air on my face, and seeing some of the wildlife greeting the neighborhood dogs, and being aware of what's going on around me. I've been having some discussions online with a few others regarding what it is that we have in common when it comes to paganism. And while it may not be completely universal, I think that the one thing that we might be able to consider relatively ubiquitous would be that we have some sort of connection to, or at least some sort of reverence for nature. I think that for the most part, we would like to say that we try to have a closer connection to nature. Sadly, over the years, we've become more and more disconnected from nature as the years and decades and centuries have passed. I think part of this comes from a Judeo-Christian understanding of Scripture in which we are told that we are to have dominion over the earth. Some of us, by the work we do, interact with nature on a visceral level. Farmers, ranchers, shepherds, foresters, wilderness guides, sailors. Some of us have a relatively direct connection to nature. But for most of us, that connection has been lost. It's been severed. This really isn't new. It seems to be a function of civilization. The more civilized we are, the less we interact with nature. There are some of us who will get up in the morning, get ready for work, get in our cars in our attached garages, drive to work, park in an indoor parking facility where we work, and never once set foot on the ground, never once come in direct contact with unfiltered or unconditioned air. And I find that sad, and it's not how I want to live my life. I wonder how many of us have taken the time to notice which phases of the moon are visible at what times of the day. Do we take time to notice this, or what constellations are visible in the sky at different times of the night, or at what times of the year? What plants grow first in the spring? What flowers do we see blooming first after the snow is gone? While Christianity teaches dominion over nature, there have been a few notable Christians who looked at things differently, who bucked the system, and who aligned with what I see as a more pagan or a more mystical, a more earth-centered approach. Notably, among these was St. Francis of Assisi. In my days as a Christian, if there was one who I admired, it was Francis. Francis lived from somewhere around 1181 to 1226, and while he could have lived a life of luxury, he gave that up to live in poverty as an itinerant preacher and a beggar. Francis called all creatures his brothers and sisters, and he would speak and preach to them. He spoke of brother sun and sister moon, brother wind, water, fire, and earth. Does that sound familiar? All of whom he saw as offering their praise to God. I guess that there is room in many faiths to connect to nature. I think that in the pagan community, we're in a better position to do this. Our celebrations are based on the circle of the seasons. If we're Wiccan, we celebrate the quarters, the cross quarters, perhaps the full moon aspects. But for some of us, I have to wonder if we're doing these out of doors or if we're doing it inside. I've been in both types of groups, some Druidic, some Wiccan, and I always prefer doing these celebrations outside, even if it's raining, so long as it's not raining too much, and so long as it's not so cold that we aren't going to get hypothermia as part of the deal. One of the reasons for getting in touch with nature is to be in touch with the rhythms of nature. I mentioned this in a prior episode. In general, women, by their nature, are in touch with the rhythms of nature. It's a function of women's bodies, almost inevitable. Men, too, if they were more in touch with their bodies, would find that they have natural rhythms, that they connect with nature. Testosterone cycles daily, and in about 60% of males, there's a natural cycle of testosterone that runs from about 8 to 30 days. I have this hypothesis that if men could be more in touch with their bodies and with other men and with nature, that this cycle might be able to be maybe even more, that they might be closer to each other and perhaps closer to the lunar rhythm, along with that women are familiar with. Then again, it's only a hypothesis. I'm not in any position to perform any sort of study, but it seems like an interesting possibility. Then we can look at the U.S. Navy, and they recognized that we need some sort of connection to natural rhythms. For some time, many submariners were required to live their lives according to an 18-hour day. They would work 6-hour shifts and then have 12 hours for study and other duties and sleep. Living under low-light conditions, the thought was that this would maximize efficiency and alertness. Shorter shifts, rotating manpower, and laboratory studies suggested that humans could adapt with a free-running circadian rhythm, usually being longer than 24 hours. Anyway, it wasn't going to be a problem. And while this went on in the submarine service for many years, in about 2014, the Navy went back to a 24-hour clock for the submarine service. They discovered that sleep was actually important and that people actually perform better when they can get something closer to 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep, even if they still needed to hot bunk, which is getting into a bed that someone else just got out of, which is what happens in the Navy when there are more sailors than there are bunks. But this lack of connection to our bodies isn't limited to men alone. I think we all suffer from it to a greater or lesser extent. We suffer because we haven't spent time understanding nature. We suffer from a lack of sunlight. Just look at how many of us are often dealing with a vitamin D deficiency. They could often be remedied by just spending a little more time in the sun. I wonder how many of us know that the phases of the moon are actually tied to certain times of the day. Did you ever notice that you won't see the waning crescent moon late in the evening or the waxing crescent moon early in the morning? Why is that? It has to do with the relative position of the moon and the sun in the sky. And we can learn this by spending time looking at them and recognizing what's going on in nature. We can see how things are illuminated by the sun in the morning and the evening, and noticing that that same side of the moon is illuminated the same way. Early astronomers and astrologers would notice these connections, and we can notice them too. And once we see them with our eyes, they become more real to us. Early sailors noticed these relationships. They would notice the phase of the moon, the position of the moon, the time of the day, and that relationship with the tides. They came to understand how the moon was related to the depth of the water in their bays and their ports. Farmers and shepherds and hunters and fishermen, even to this day, rely, in one way or another, on the rhythms of the earth. Maybe not so much as in the past, because technology is more and more able to separate us from that as a necessity. But there is still something of a connection. I think, though, that the farther we become separated from the cycles of the sun and the moon and the earth, the more we are separated from ourselves and from each other. Sometimes it seems that the more civilization advances, the less civilized we become. The more technology increases, the less we are able to connect person to person in real life as human beings. What is the point in this little opening segment? I suppose that if there is a point, it's simply to advocate for getting closer to nature, closer to the earth, and closer to other people. To be more human, to be kinder. I'm not suggesting that we should be tolerant of intolerance. I'm not suggesting that we should be doormats. I'll call out intolerance and racism and bigotry when I see it. Sometimes I'm fierce when I do so. But if someone is in need, if I can help someone, I'll be there. I'm also calling on each of us, if not on a daily basis, at least a few times a week, to get out in nature, touch something natural. If you can't touch bare earth or grass with your bare feet, at least do so with your shoes. In my neck of the woods, that's been mostly snow and ice lately, though I have been able to find some grass the past few days, and that made me happy. Breathe some fresh air. Put your feet on something other than pavement or concrete when you go outside. If it's raining or snowing, let your skin feel a bit of that rain or snow or sunshine or moonlight or starlight. Let Mother Nature caress you. Let her hold you. Let her be your mother. Let yourself feel her embrace. And know that her rhythms are your rhythms, because you are her daughter or her son. For, as the song goes, we all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return, like a drop of rain flowing to the ocean. Let's hear a little more music.
might stay. I know your wings are tattered by the things we've done. I hear your cry for us to awaken. Mother Earth is giving all that she can give. Her loving breath of life she gives so freely. Could we be so blind not to see that she is hurting too, just as we? Bomba, when you spread your wings and fly through the mist, we hear your haunting cry. With the help from all our brothers, we'll make a better day. Eagle fly, don't fly away. From your lofty view on mountain high, you've seen the selfish things that we have tried. Poisoned every river and we stripped the land. We put those lonely tears in your eyes. Bomba, when you spread your wings and fly through the mist, we hear your haunting cry. With the help from all our sisters, we'll make a better day. Eagle fly, but don't fly away. Eagle fly, eagle fly, standing on the threshold of a brand new dawn, a world in which our children may grow wiser. Skies of blue, waters clear, grass so green. Our earth will be healed, this is our dream. Bomba, when you spread your wings and fly through the mist, we hear your haunting cry. With the help from all our relations, we'll make a better day. Eagle fly, don't fly away. Eagle fly, please don't fly away. Don't fly away.
In an eastern rose garden, full in bloom, privileged to be the few that walketh there, but to pluck the roses of sweet perfume is from the heavens an answered prayer. O ye blinded souls, seeking earthly gain, a moment that lasteth, and from ye flee. Go to that garden in quest and obtain the one divine gain of eternity.
In an eastern rose garden, full in bloom, privileged to be the few that walketh there, but to pluck the roses of sweet perfume is from the heavens an answered prayer. Oh, you blinded souls seeking earthly gain, a moment that lasted, and from thee flee. Go to that garden. Go to the garden in quest and obtain the one divine gain. One divine gain of eternity.
All right, so that was Denian with Eagle Fly from her album The Weaving, and then we heard Who Dosed with In an Eastern Rose Garden from their album In an Eastern Rose Garden. And tonight in our Practical Pagan segment, I wanted to talk a little bit about ritual and the importance of ritual. So, what is ritual and why is it important? Can we perform ritual as solitary practitioners? And what do we need for ritual tools? These are kind of important questions, especially if we're solitary practitioners. To get started, when I was speaking a few minutes ago about the rhythms of nature, I was actually talking partly about ritual. In one sense, this is entirely what ritual is about. As pagans, our lives are inextricably interwoven with nature. I know that some of us might practice paths that are less connected than others, and that's fine. But for most of us, the word pagan implies some sort of earth-centered tradition. And that's who I'm generally speaking about when I use the term pagan. Generally, as pagans, whether it's Wicca, Druidry, or most other paths, we're going to have 4 or 8 solar celebrations per year, and possibly up to 13 lunar celebrations, if we choose to celebrate these as well. The solar celebrations are the solstices and the equinoxes, the quarters, along with the cross quarters. So we're talking about Samhain, Imbolc, Beltane, and Lughnasadh. The solar celebrations are going to be Yule, or the winter solstice, Ostara, or the vernal equinox, Litha, or the summer solstice, and Mabon, or the autumn equinox. Different traditions might have different names for these celebrations, and I'm using the names that I've used in the traditions that I've been associated with. In any spiritual path, there is learning and there is doing. There is the formal ritual and there's the informal ritual. So when I've said when I said last week that I haven't cast a circle, that I've not performed ritual, what I meant specifically was that I've not performed formal ritual. And that doesn't mean that I haven't performed any ritual. Ritual is still part of my daily life. When I'm walking to work and it's dark out in the morning and I'm walking under the moon, I'm greeting the goddess. I'm walking with her. That's ritual. When I met my friend the raven and I found joy and I greeted that bird, that's ritual. Ritual comes to my life in countless small ways all the time. But there's also a time for more formal ritual, and that can take multiple forms as well. It doesn't always have to be a circle cast. It can be more or less complex. It can be as simple as candle gazing or some time spent in intentional meditation. And it can also mean when I go to Sunday service as a Quaker, which is another type of ritual. It can be an afternoon of magical crafting. It can be an intentional walk in the wilderness or a bicycle ride. The point is that ritual is sacred time set aside for communion with deity. However we see deity, she, him, they, them. We aren't solitary creatures. We were never meant to be solitary creatures, but sometimes other people might wear us out. And sometimes, like it or not, we might wear other people out. Sometimes we need to recharge. Sometimes our friends might need to recharge. That's where the gods and goddesses can certainly come to our assistance. That's one place ritual can come to our assistance, especially as a solitary. Ritual can have multiple meanings, or rather there can be multiple types of ritual. One type of ritual is more for worship or celebration, while another type may be more for spell work or petition. In the first, we give. In the second, we seek. This is common in most religions, including Christianity. Any church service is a form of ritual, as is prayer. In the Catholic Church, all of the sacraments are rituals. All of the novenas, the rosary, the sacrament of Mass, all of it is ritual. And while they might use the term miracle instead of magic, it's the same thing. The miracle of the Mass is the same thing as the magic that we, as pagans, might expect in the magic of our pagan rituals. Indeed, the only difference between the words magic and miracle is a religious one that seems to have been created by Christians, wherein the word miracle is defined as something that was done by God, and the word magic means something that was done either fraudulently by humans or by demonic forces. That's not how I use the term magic either. I still prefer the definition that Crowley gave, where magic is the science and art of effecting change in conformity with will. And that can be done by deity or by human. It doesn't matter. And then we'll get into this a little bit later. But they also seem to forget that Christ himself said that if people had faith the size of a mustard seed, they could command a mountain to be removed and it would be done. He didn't say that if they had faith, they could pray to God and that God would move the mountain for them. Rather, he told his disciples that their human selves, would have the authority that if they had their faith, they could do such a thing. And that sort of faith is the essence of magic. It's the confidence in which pagans find their ability to do the work they do, that we do. We find the faith, the courage, the audacity, if you will, that so many Christians seem to have forgot, that Christ told them they might have if they could only find it within themselves. It's not evil. It's not demonic. It's simply natural. And it's something that has existed in all cultures. Solomon himself spoke of it in the Christian or the Old Testament. Solomon's breastplate contained the 12 stones of the zodiac plus a couple others for the sun and the moon. And he worked with pentacles and he practiced magic. Magic and ritual are part of every religion. It's just that some don't call it magic. But for us, as pagans, what does ritual do? Ritual is our practice. It's how we internalize knowledge and make it a part of who we are. It's how we go from theoretical to practical. Years ago, I used to teach guitar. I remember talking to one student who felt that he wasn't getting better. He actually was, but he didn't feel as if he was. In any case, my advice to him was this. In anything that we do, we'll find plateaus. Those plateaus aren't things that we should be afraid of. They're the places where we've taken what we've amassed intellectually, and we're making them a part of us. In our pagan path, we might be taking in a great deal intellectually in reading books and watching videos and listening to podcasts, and we might think that we're learning a great deal, but our lives aren't changing with the knowledge that we're accumulating. To change our lives with the things that we learn, we need two things. We need to put them into practice on both the material realm and in the spiritual realm. We need to make them real materially and spiritually. So how do we do that? Well, ritual is where we make things real. In Gerald Gardner's book High Magic's Aid, when Jan's party was preparing for war, they prepared first in ritual. That battle was won first in ritual. It was made real and won ritually before anyone ever set foot on the field with a weapon. When we want to change our lives, we change things first ritually, and then in our lives, those changes will come about much more organically. In the words of Christ, he once told his disciples that if they had the faith the size of a mustard seed, again, they could say to that mountain, be removed, and the mountain would move. It's kind of similar to Yoda talking to Luke in Star Wars, where Luke's ability to do something, to move objects, came directly from his own faith. So where Jesus was relating a person's ability to do something directly to their own belief, so did Yoda do the same thing. These are actual claims about natural magic. The Force is natural magic. The faith that Jesus was talking about is natural magic. As pagans, what we're claiming is that natural magic actually works. What we're claiming is thaumaturgy, the ability to effect change in the physical world. This is contrasted with theurgy, in which some god will act upon the world in answer to petitions of the faithful. Thaumaturgy is what people such as Doreen Valente, Isaac Bonowitz, Aleister Crowley, and so many others, some more savory than others, some more credible than others, it's what they've written about for many generations. But the only way to decide its effectiveness is to give it a try. Thaumaturgy is one part of ritual. It's the non-religious part. It's the non-religious spell casting. Then we get into the religious part. These two parts are what separates witchcraft from Wicca. Witchcraft alone is pure thaumaturgy. Wicca is a religion. Wicca can be practiced as a religion without the witchcraft component. One can be a Wiccan and never cast a spell. One can be a witch who practices magic and never bother with gods and goddesses. But both will practice some form of ritual. And I suppose that's part of the point. Ritual doesn't have to be religious in nature. When we see a baseball player adjusting his glove at the batter's box, when someone with OCD is constantly checking a door or washing their hands, these acts are ritualistic. They're habitual. We have a feeling that something won't go right if we don't do them. We have an intellectual understanding that they serve no legitimate or useful purpose, but there's something in our mind that says, what if? It's ritualistic. We do it because it's what we've done, because it seems right. That it's a ritual habit. It's ritually devoid of meaning. It's ritual devoid of meaning. But in our world, witchcraft and paganism, We perform ritual with meaning. We perform it because it focuses our mind, it focuses our energy, it helps us to create images in our mind, which helps us to create things in reality on the spiritual plane. And that is the fundamental lesson of magic. The more real we can make something in our mind, the more real we can make it on the spiritual plane. And the more real we can make it on the spiritual plane, the more real it will become on the physical plane. This is the ultimate meaning behind the words, as above, so below. What we construct above comes to fruition below. In the spiritual realm exists our mustard seeds, and we fashion them into what we wish to make here on earth.
From the center of the circle, I can see the world in all directions streaming out from me. With the eyes of my soul, I see my four reflections. From the center of the circle, I can see the world in all directions streaming out from me. With the eyes of my soul, I see my four reflections. Yeah, yeah. As the infant in the east begins to open his eyes, the fire from within will ignite the sky. In this moment I am my own creation. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Growing wild within myself, let your nectar fill my mouth. I will drink of all desire, dance to midday sun, my sire. I can face the four directions, knowing all without, within. I can learn from these connections, for the world and I are In the west we go to sleep, merry part and merry meet. Oh, you cannot give away what will be back. And even with the setting sun, a new day has begun on the other side. And with what you have done, you will now decide. Yeah. In the winter midnight north, let the mystery pour forth. In the dark
suppose I'd skip a broken heart or two. I confess that I am troubled by this pious vocal few when they cross the line and tell us what to do. Ah, but life's too short for all this worry. I offer myself to you, oh. Life's too long for lies to carry any more weight in this world. And it harm none, do what you will, as the circle has bound us. Bound we are still, though the bottle be empty, may the cup remain filled. And it harm none, do what you will. I will cast a circle here, I will put my feet upon the holy ground. In the shadow there reflected I will find and face my fear, and we all know there is fear plenty round. Oh, but life's too short for all this worry. I offer myself to you, oh. Life's too long for lies to carry any more weight in this world. And it harm none, do what you will, as the circle has bound us. Bound we are still, though the bottle be empty, may the cup remain filled. And it harm none, do what you will. Everything between the living earth and the sky. When it's all of life we treasure through the endless spinning days, in our actions you will know us by and by. Oh, but life's too short for all this worry. I offer myself to you, oh. Life's too long for lies to carry any more weight in this world. And it harm none, do what you will, as the circle has bound us. Bound we are still, though the bottle be empty, may the cup remain filled. And it harm none, do what you will. And it harm none, do what you will, as the circle has bound us. Bound we are still, though the bottle be empty, may the cup remain filled. And it harm none, do what you will. And it harm none, do what you will.
And that was Ginger Doss with Four Directions from her album Hand and Hammer. And then we heard Gaia Consort with The Reed from their album Gaia Circles. And right now it's time for our review. And this week we're taking a look at The Celtic Wheel of the Year, Ancient Wisdom for Living in Harmony with the Land by Rhonda McCrimmon. This came out from Hierophant Publishing, brand new 2026. So I'm going to get my snobbery out of the way really quickly so that I can get to the good part of this as soon as possible. The book does not have a bibliography, and it doesn't have many references internally. So for those of you who've listened to me in the past, you know that this is something I look for in books. That being said, this is a book that I did enjoy. Rhonda McCrimmon is a teacher. She calls herself a Celtic shaman, and while the term shaman is one that I personally wouldn't use, she seems to have some good insights and some good common sense. She knows how to, as it were, stay on the wheel, and that's what the Celtic Wheel of the Year is about. It takes us on a journey through the Wheel of the Year, starting at Yule in the north, through Imbolc, Ostara, Beltane, Litha, Lunasa, Mabon, and Samhain, and then to the center. In each direction, McCrimmon examines the meaning behind the celebrations, the associations, whether they be colors, animals, astrological, plants, or what have you. She helps us understand the lessons we might learn from the particular season and its association with that part of our life, what it might mean regarding how we might have something to learn, some way to grow, something to let go of. Throughout the Celtic Wheel of the Year are a number of meditations. Personally, I think they would be more helpful if they were done as some sort of guided meditation. While many of these are short and possible to keep in mind, it might be worth recording them, perhaps with some sort of meditative music in the background to help you practice the journey that Ron is hoping you'll engage on. Each of these seems that they could be very useful. Who knows, maybe at some point she'll come up with some sort of CD or MP3 files or something. The book is not designed to be read in a few days and then put on a shelf. It's really meant to be used over the cycle of a year, and I think doing so would be beneficial to anyone who gives it a serious go. I'll recommend it as a good book for anyone who is starting out on a journey of understanding Celtic traditions and wanting to understand more. And it's not a bad one even for those who are more advanced and wish to engage in a more daily practice. I wouldn't consider this a scholarly work, and it isn't geared towards scholars, but it's obvious that McCrimmon has done a good deal of research in her writing and has managed to make what she's studied available for the rest of us. And in our PaganFM Almanac, so today is February 14th. It is, of course, Valentine's Day. While the Christian version is St. Valentine's Day, the holiday's origins stem back to the Roman holiday of Lupercalia, in which young women would be paired with men in rituals which often led to these couples being married. In the year 409, Pope Gelasius I decided to rename Lupercalia and dedicate it to St. Valentine, and set the date to February 14th as we know it today. The new moon will be on February 17th, and in parts of southern Africa, the Southern Ocean, the southern tip of South America, and parts of Antarctica, there will be an annular solar eclipse. The moon will then be waxing until February 28th. February 18th in 1535 marks the passing of Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa von Nettersheim, who was a German Renaissance polymath. He was born on September 14th in 1486 and was a physician, legal scholar, soldier, knight, theologian, and an occultist. His 3 books of occult philosophy, published in 1533, are impossible to understate in their significance to the Western occult traditions, but they were condemned by the Inquisitor of Cologne. Dealing with the Kabbalah, Hermeticism, Neoplatonism, these books covered elemental or natural magic, celestial or astrological magic, and intellectual or divine magic. And on February 19th, the sun enters Pisces. So happy birthday to all the Pisceans out there, all of you creative, empathetic, compassionate Romantics. So we'll hear a little more music, and then we'll talk about our herb of the week. We're going to look at the oak, and I'll see you in a few minutes.
Shelter and shade has the oak tree grown. The ship, the cradle, the hearth and home. Arms so strong they hold the sky. Stood so long that the heart can't die. The limbs, the veins, the head and the heart, the earth, the roots, the leaves and the bark, the limbs, the veins, the head and the heart, the earth, the roots, the leaves and the bark. Tear the branch and your crops will fail. Break the bough and your fleet won't sail. It cries when the black rain burns. Trees die when the seas return. The limbs, the veins, the head and the heart, the earth, the roots, the leaves and the bark, the limbs, the veins, the head and the heart, the earth, the roots, the leaves and the bark. A dozen generations has the oak tree grown. The roots reach deep to the rocks and bones. Arms so strong they hold the sky. Stood so long that the heart can't die. The limbs, the veins, the head and the heart, the earth, the roots, the leaves and the bark, the limbs, the veins, the head and the heart, the earth, the roots, the leaves and the bark. The veins, the head and the heart, the earth, the roots, the leaves and the bark, the limbs, the veins, the head and the heart, the earth, the roots, the leaves and the bark, the limbs, the veins, the head and the heart, the earth, the roots, the leaves and the bark, the limbs, the veins, the head and the heart, the earth, the roots, the leaves and the bark, the earth, the roots, the leaves and the bark, the earth, the roots, the leaves and the bark, the earth, the roots, the leaves and the bark, the earth, the roots, the leaves and the bark, the earth, the roots, the leaves and the bark, the earth, the roots, the leaves and the bark, the earth, the roots, the leaves and the bark, the earth. We are the children of the earth. We are one and the same. We're all connected to the web. We are part of the chain. She is calling me. She is comforting me. She is carrying me. I am flying. 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 We are the children of the earth. We are one and the same. We're all connected to the web. We are part of the chain. She is calling me. She is comforting me. She is carrying me. I am flying. 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 We are the children of the earth. We are one and the same. We're all connected to the web. We are part of the chain. She is calling me. She is comforting me. She is carrying me. I am flying. 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 We are the children of the earth. We are one and the same. We're all connected to the web. We are part of the chain. She is calling me. She is comforting me. She is carrying me. I am flying. I am flying. I am flying. I am flying. I am flying.
So that was Spiral Dance with The Oak from their album The Quickening. And then we heard Shining Wheel Pagan Chorus with Children of the Earth from their album Chance of Balance. And tonight in our Herb of the Week, we are talking about the oak. So here in North America and in other parts of the world, we are graced with oak. While many use it for its lumber, which has been used for the construction of ships and homes and furniture, it's also been a source of food, of tannins for tanning hides, and medicine for countless generations. The astringent qualities of oak bark make it an effective mouth rinse for canker sores, and the tannins help to relieve inflammation. They also make it effective for such conditions as Crohn's disease and diarrhea. The astringent qualities may help with heavy menstruation, and oak may also help with skin conditions such as eczema. Again, this isn't medical advice, it's just things that have been historical uses for this plant. Oak leaves harvested in the spring have similar uses to the bark. Avoid using leaves after the spring as the tannin levels become much too high. Other uses for the leaves include respiratory and urinary issues, and the spring leaves can also be used for tea and as a seasoning. The acorns harvested in the fall, properly rinsed to remove them of tannins, can be made into a flour that makes nutritious breads and cakes. It does take a great deal of rinsing to effectively dissolve the tannins, and this may require multiple pots of water. If you have a clear and unpolluted stream handy, submerging the shelled acorns in such a stream in something like cheesecloth or a sack that water can run freely through can be an effective way of achieving this. Spiritually, the oak represents strength and grounding, as well as wisdom and growth. As one of the strongest trees, it represents an ability to stand strong in the face of great adversity, something that is quite symbolic and appropriate, at least in this country right now. Where others fail to thrive, the oak continues to grow to provide comfort and shelter for wild animals. The oak has been used as structural components for ships of war and great cathedrals. It's been a part of who we are when we've been at our best and our worst. And in our Oppression Watch this week, why do we celebrate Gay Pride Month in June? We do so because on June 28th, 1969, police raided the Stonewall Inn in New York City, a popular LGBTQ club, because being gay was still illegal at the time. In the aftermath, the LGBTQ community decided they would no longer tolerate government raids at the Stonewall Inn, and this took the form of an uprising, a riot. This was the birth of Gay Pride, of Pride Month, of what we celebrate in June of every single year. And near to the Stonewall Inn, the federal government set up a national monument in recognition of that struggle and the gains made by the LGBTQ community due to the courage of those who rose up in the aftermath of that incident. But this past week, the Trump administration decided that a pride flag should not be displayed at the national monument that is there specifically to celebrate the birth of gay pride. They removed that pride flag from the Stonewall National Monument. Some in the LGBTQIA community have taken it upon themselves to replace that flag, recognizing that as LGBTQIA individuals, we don't want the Trump administration erasing us. Trump has been trying his hardest to do so, but trying to fight that battle at Stonewall, I think, isn't going to be a battle he's going to easily win. This does go to show, though, the level of contempt that MAGA and the Trump administration have for the American public and for our history. They've also recently removed any Black history from the monuments in Philadelphia. So let's continue to stay strong, to fight for each other, and to have each other's backs. Locally, here in South Jersey, in Lindenwold, another attempted raid took place at a bus stop where local school students were just waiting for their morning bus to go to school. ICE pulled up. The students scattered. Our law enforcement organizations shouldn't be in the business of terrorizing students waiting to go to school. I heard from a number of right-wing racist idiots saying, if you're legal, you shouldn't be afraid. These people are literally idiots because it's not just undocumented immigrants. And let's get this straight. There is nothing illegal about being a refugee. And not having documents itself is not a crime. But it's not just undocumented immigrants who are being arrested and detained. nor is being undocumented a crime in the first place. Overstaying a visa is a simple civil infraction, not a criminal act. Being a refugee is actually something that is internationally protected, and it's a duty of a country such as ours to offer refugees protection. The fact that some in our country don't want to do that is by far a greater crime. In the end, those students scattered, and ICE got none of them, which I, for one, am grateful for. I'm also grateful that we, in New Jersey, have elected a governor in the form of Mikey Sherrill, who isn't backing away from confronting what ICE and the Trump administration are trying to do. Instead, she's standing up and fighting against the abuses of this administration. She's fighting back for funding for the Gateway Tunnel project, which the Trump administration is finally releasing funds for. He had canceled funding, saying that the contractors weren't providing enough information to prove that they didn't have illegal DEI programs, which they aren't illegal. Then he said he wouldn't release funding unless Dulles International Airport and Penn Station would be named after himself. Finally, a judge agreed that that was utterly illegal, and $20 million was released immediately, with another $200 million to be released next week. As a critical infrastructure program, it is insane to hold up this funding, because failure of one of the aging tunnels could hamstring the entire Northeast. But halting projects that impact thousands of jobs all over the area doesn't matter. The thing is that economic impact of these decisions does not come into play when the other half of the calculus is Trump's ego or the MAGA agenda. Likewise, we see a failure to think of consequences when we see the disparity of thinking when it comes to such things as vaccines, with one part of the Trump administration now wondering whether even the polio vaccine is worth administering, while we're now suffering with the resurgence of measles. We have Robert F. Kennedy saying it's natural and no big deal that we have the worst outbreak in decades. At the same time, Dr. Oz is now urging people to get vaccinated. So we have one administration and two contradictory messages. And we have an administration that wants to say it's a prior administration's fault that our nation can't come together, when this administration can't even bring itself to stand in unity on the concept of vaccinations. As for me, I go where the science leads. I go where evidence leads. I think it only makes sense. Anyway, I think I want to hear some more music, and then we'll talk about what's going to be in next week's show, and we'll go from there. So let's hear a little more music, and then we'll wrap up the show.
Driving home at night in the company of a storm. Endless tail lights, I'm sitting here alone. Another day gone by, where do they all go? It's getting harder to justify a life on death row. I wanna go where I can heal my soul, talk to the wisest people I know. I will go. Soothing sound of forest leaves, and all my troubles start to ease. Forgive me, please, you will find me under the trees. When we are born, we are told you're part of a great machine, no chance of parole. But life is a miracle, this I know so well. It's time to turn the key of my prison cell. I wanna go where I can heal my soul, talk to the wisest people I know. I will go. Soothing sound of forest leaves, and all my troubles start to ease. Forgive me, please, you will find me under the trees. And I know that it's true, it's so much harder to do than to say. All that I can say to you is come and meet me there too. You know the way. I wanna go where I can heal my soul, talk to the wisest people I know. I will go. The soothing sound of forest leaves, and all my troubles start to ease. Forgive me, please, I wanna go where I can heal my soul, talk to the wisest people I know. I will go. Soothing sound of forest leaves, and all my troubles start to ease. If you agree, come and join me under the trees.
Wish you were here, me oh my countryman, wish you were here. I wish you were here, don't you know the snow is getting colder, and I miss you like hell, and I'm feeling blue. Man, wish you were here.
So that was Wendy Rule with The Earth is Still Part of the Sky from her album The Wolf Sky. Then we heard Dave the Bard with Under the Trees from his album Raise the Flag of Green. Then was Crow Women with Womb of Brigid from Seasons, A Pagan Journey Around the Wheel. And Blackmore's Night with Wish You Were Here from Shadow of the Moon. Next week, I'm going to discuss what it takes to remain mentally as well as physically young as we start aging. We'll look at how and why to build a quality occult library. And we're going to take a look at Doreen Valenti's book, Natural Magic. This is, again, an older book, but not quite as old as some of the others we've spent some time with. But once again, it has been foundational to modern occultism. We'll be looking at a few more of these classics as time goes on. They are simply too important to be forgotten. And I hope that by talking about them, I can encourage some of you to take a look at them. It's part of a quality library anyways, which we're going to be talking about. Anyway, tonight, thanks so much for listening. I do appreciate you all. I've been kind of keeping track where some of y'all are from, and I've noticed listeners obviously from the U.S. and Canada, and I think somebody from Ireland. So word's starting to get around. So things are happening, and the show's picking up. And thanks again. And I think we'll close the show out again tonight with Feather Scale and Hail and Farewell, because it's the perfect song for that. Love you guys, and we'll see you next week. Blessed be.
Just to declare it's a parting of ways, bidding you